Hello, book lovers, and welcome to Authors Love Bookstores, presented by A Mighty Blaze. My name is Kimberly Hensle-Lowrance, and I'm your host today. We're so excited that you're here. If you're watching live with us on Facebook, please feel free to post a question in a comment below the broadcast, and we'll get to those audience queries later on in the discussion. Today, we're so fortunate to welcome author Margaret Wilkerson Sexton to Authors Love Bookstores. Margaret is the author of 2 novels, A Kind of Freedom and The Revisioners. They are extraordinary. They've been described as luminous and wondrous and stunning, and all of those words are perfect to describe these books. Her debut novel, A Kind of Freedom, was a 2017 National Book Award nominee, a New York Times Notable Book of the Year, and a New York Times Book Review Editor's Choice. It also won the Crook Corners Book Prize and was a recipient of the First Novelist Award from the Black Caucus of the American Library Association. Her latest book is The Revisioners. It came out in 2019, and it's been nominated for the 2020 Hurston Wright Legacy Award. Please read these books if you haven't already. They're fantastic. Margaret is joining us today to talk about one of her favorite independent bookstores, which is A Great Good Place for Books, which that's the best name for a bookstore. Welcome, Margaret. We're so happy you're here. And and from A Great Good Place to Books, Great Good Place for Books is Kathleen Caldwell, the owner of the bookstore. Welcome, Kathleen.
Welcome. Thank you for having me, Kimberly.
We're so happy both of you are here. Now, we're definitely going to talk a little bit about Margaret's books, but we want to give people a sense of the bookstore. So, A Great Good Place for Books is located in Montclair Village neighborhood of Oakland, California. So for those of us who don't know Oakland, don't know Montclair Village, can you give us a sense of the community, your customers? What can you tell us about the place where your bookstore is located?
I always for East Coast people, I always say it's the Park Slope of Brooklyn in the Oakland Hills. We have an amazing community of people. We are very community based. Margaret can tell you, we have kids running in and out of the store all day. We have kids that come and hang out. I feel really lucky because as I always joke that I forgot to have kids. So instead of one, I've got a whole store full. I also am really committed to my customers. I know what they've read, and we have a lot of, community parties and community appreciation. We really, I just feel like it's what you want in an independent bookstore. I've worked at bookstores for the last 30 years, and this one, I always call it my own little piece of heaven in the Oakland Hills. It's everything I never knew I really wanted. So that's what I always tell people.
Now, Margaret, is this your bookstore? You're in the Bay Area. Do you shop at A Great Good Place for books?
I do. I live in Montclair.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so this is my local bookstore, and my children used to go to Montclair Elementary School, so we would walk by after school, and that's how I met Kathleen, and that's how I was introduced to the store. And it's just such a familial place, such a warm and inviting place. My children, like Kathleen said, will just run up and down the store, and that's welcome there. And I just love the energy that Kathleen gives off. It's so very welcoming. It has made me feel like I have a stronger connection to the community because it's such a community-based store.
And so these past couple months, when so many things have been closed down, and I imagine the store was closed for a period of time, how have you been able to foster that sense of community, Kathleen, even though the doors have been closed?
Well, we've always had a really active online presence, really courtesy of I like to call him our web guru, Mike. He's amazing and has really brought us to another level. I think just reaching out, and the amazing thing was when we were closed down, I gave my customers my home number, and they were calling me at home and ordering books and checking in just to see how I was doing. And they bought an amazing amount of gift certificates, which really got us through that really kind of scary time when we didn't quite know how we were going to do this, because we'd never done anything like this before. But I mean, I really feel that if you really encourage a community, you can create such an amazing community of people. And I mean, people will just come in just to, they just pop their head in the door now, because we can only allow a few people in the store at a time, and they just go, hey, we're just dropping by to say hey and see how you're doing. And I mean, as far as the kids go, we do have limited numbers, so they can't come and hang out like they have for, I always say, generations of kids, because my first group of kids are all now getting married and having babies themselves and bringing their babies in to see me. And I can't tell you how many kids I'm part of their prom drop by to show their prom outfits, which is really awesome.
That's the first time we've heard that here on Authors Love Bookstores.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much fun. I have like these kids that just feel that this is their place.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have to say the adults do too, but for me to see teenagers want to come and hang out at a bookstore is it's an incredible thing. And I mean, I believe that the whole family is part of the store. And I know Margaret's come in, and I call it the GGP family. And when people say something, I said, don't worry about it, you're part of the family. And I truly know what everybody's reading and what they're going to like. And sometimes I'll, if it's somebody I know really well, if it's a book I know they're going to love, I'll send them a text and go, oh, it came in, you got to come by. And they'll come by. And I have to say, I have the world's best staff. So, my staff really believes the same way I do, that it's a complete community, and we all have to participate and be a part of it. So I feel really blessed that, my whole staff and my management team is amazing. I have two co-managers that are two of the most incredible people I've ever met. So I feel very lucky to have them. And one of my co-managers, she's a writer herself and a published author. So I mean, it's like it's what we believe in. This is, it's the life we've chosen, and it's our job to share it with everybody else.
During the times when the bookstore was closed, so now you're open on a limited basis.
We are.
But when you were closed, you did online sales, I imagine.
We did online sales. We did online events with Zoom, and that was courtesy of Mike figuring that out overnight.
I think we all figured out Zoom overnight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think he has things up on YouTube now too. We have a YouTube channel that he started. So I feel really lucky that I have him. I mean, I don't know what we would have done if I mean, I barely knew how to turn on a computer, to be honest with you. And Mike has turned me into someone who can figure out how to use, well, not great use earpods, but pretty good. It was so bizarre. It was like within 24 hours, we had to totally turn our business around and figure out how to make it and how to do the marketing we did without being in the store doing it. We did I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you guys know, we're really, really active on social media. I have Samantha, who does our live videos, because she's more comfortable and can figure out earpods better than I can. So she does all of our live marketing. Like if we've got an upcoming author event or something, you'll see a video with Sam doing it. I feel, it was you just had to flip it overnight.
Yeah.
And like I said, I gave my home phone number out. And I got calls sometimes. I got one call at 6 a.m, and I was not very nice when I answered the phone, because anybody who knows me knows I am not a morning person.
So that was someone who was really needing a book.
they were really needing a book because they called me at, I think it was 6:15. And the funny thing was one of my good friends from childhood was awaiting the birth of her first grandchild. So I assumed, except when he was calling me at 6 in the morning, it was her calling me to tell me the baby was here. So I was not very nice when I answered the phone because I thought it was her.
But for some people, Kathleen, a new book is just as exciting as the birth of a baby.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, but I mean, they were so apologetic when they realized that it was actually me on the other end of the phone answering the phone at 6 in the morning. They thought they would just be leaving a message.
What can you
But I
tell us?
mean,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
but I have to say that they really sustained me, my customers. I mean, some would just call up to say, God, we miss you and we're so worried. How you doing? And even if they weren't buying a book, they were just calling up to make sure that we were okay, and we were going to make it. And that was their number one. They go, oh, we've got to keep you here. You make the community. And I mean, that felt a little excessive to me, but I mean, I am about community. And I always say it's, because I was raised Irish, Irish Catholic New Yorker, we're all about community. We can't help ourselves.
So your customers have been very dedicated to supporting the store. You were mentioning that they have purchased gift certificates, and I imagine they've also been buying books. What have been
They've been
books that
buying books like,
have there been sort of certain books that have been lifting to the top as sort of the most popular books of your community in the past couple
yeah,
of months?
I would say in the very beginning, it was real escapist stuff. People were reading. I made a joke because I myself was only reading trashy novels in the beginning because that was all I could handle, things with happy endings. And I had a lot of people reading trashy novels with me, which was quite fun. And actually, people really made fun of me about the trashy novels. So I mean, we've been reading a lot of I would say the Glennon Doyle's book was really popular in the beginning. And then as we moved into the George Floyd time, we have books about understanding the division in our country, I think, have been our big sellers all summer. I would say our number one books are, well, and also, we did really well with, like Such a Fun Age was a great book, and Margaret's book has always sold well for us because we love Margaret. And then as we moved into June, our big books were like White Fragility and How to Be an Anti-Racist. Important books that we all need to be reading right now.
And Margaret, what about you during this pandemic? Has there been a book or books that you have found solace in, or escape, or joy that you'd like to recommend to our viewers?
Yeah, well, I read The Vanishing Half and loved it, and even have been rereading it, which is unusual for me. I am also rereading books that I find that really soothing, like almost like just eating a bowl of soup that your grandmother used to make. It feels very nostalgic for me. So I'm rereading Passing by Nella Larson. And I'm rereading The Transit of Venus, which is just very calming for me. I think The Transit of Venus especially is so much about human nature. It just makes me feel like less alone and more like we're all bound by our emotions and by how we respond to things, and typically we respond in very similar ways, at the core of it. And that feels very calming to me at this time when you've seen so much division and unrest.
And then your books, obviously people are reading them also during this time. I know that I have had the pleasure of reading them over the past couple of weeks, and
thank you.
What I think is really extraordinary about the way that you write if I can gush for a second.
I would love
Go ahead and gush. I think you create these characters that the reader takes with them after the last page.
that.
Like, I feel like, oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that makes me happy to hear. That makes me
It's true. I mean, I find myself thinking about Evelyn and thinking about Josephine and wondering about them. And not all writers do that. And
Thank you.
as a reader, I really appreciated that.
I appreciate that in a book too, and that's what I found in the books that I focused on during this time. It's the books where I really feel like a kinship with the characters.
Mm.
Yeah, it's almost like you've met new people and you've introduced new people into your life.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, I know that feeling. So I appreciate that you've had that with those books.
Can you tell our viewers about the Revisioners? What describe the book for them?
Sure. So The Revisioners tells the story of Josephine. She's a former enslaved woman and a former sharecropper. And in 1924, despite her tragic past, she has found herself in a pretty comfortable position. She's surrounded by family and friends. She has lucked upon this 300-acre farm, and she's doing quite well. However, this is the year that a white woman moves in next door, and this woman is not as confident as Josephine. She's looking for something sturdy to hold on to. And she tries to strike up a friendship. Now, Josephine is wary at first for reasons we understand. It's 1924, but ultimately they do form this cautious bond. However, it's later upended when Josephine learns that the neighbor is a member of the Klan. And then many generations later, we have Josephine's great granddaughter, Ava, who is a biracial woman in New Orleans, and she's financially strapped, and she decides to move in with her white grandmother, who owns an uptown mansion in New Orleans. And at first it's a win-win because her grandmother's health is failing, so she can help her. And of course, she didn't have the money for her own place. But the grandmother's behavior soon becomes really erratic and even racist. And Ava's and Josephine's storylines start to converge.
They do. In a way that you have to read. You have to read the book. It's a terrific story. I couldn't put it down. And before we went live, Kathleen, you were saying that you have a big display in your store of Margaret's books.
I actually have a copy in the window. Yeah. We love Margaret, and we were so blessed before all this started. We did this amazing party for her for the launch. And I think what Margaret's writing about is really important for the time we're living in right now. And Margaret does it so beautifully. And I mean, the thing I love about Margaret's books is you slip into them. And I know that's a weird way to describe it, but you feel like you're a voyeur watching it. Hold on.
We can hear you, Kathleen.
But you feel like you're a part of this story, and you feel connected to every single character. And that's what I love about her writing. And that's why, it's an easy book to say to somebody, wow, you've got to read this. This is a book you won't forget. And that's one of my favorite lines is books that I can put in someone's hand and say, you're going to thank me. You'll call me when you finish it. And believe me, I get great messages all the time from customers telling me how much they loved a book that I told them that they would love. And I always, I joke that I'm the bossy bookseller. I tell people what they need to read.
But that's what people want from an independent bookstore, right? You want to be able to walk in the store and say, oh, I love the Revisioners. What else did I love? And then the bookseller can say, oh, I'll match. It's like you're a matchmaker, right? Matching.
Yeah. I mean, we get to open up a different world for people. And I can't tell you how fun it is, and I remember the day Margaret walked in. She walked in with her two kids, and she said to me, she goes, oh yeah, I'm Margaret Sexton. I said, oh yeah. She goes, I've got a book coming out. And I said, oh, okay. And then we went and looked you up, and then we went and read it, and we went, oh my God, she lives in our neighborhood. This is going to be awesome. It's as I said to somebody, it was the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful to have you in the community, to have your support. I have such fond memories of the launch. I'm so glad we were able to do it in person.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad.
I know.
Can you tell our viewers about the launch that you had at a Great Good Books? Good Place for Books?
Sure.
Oh, it was a party.
It was. I mean, I think because it was my second book, I think I was just more comfortable. And I think with the first book, you're wondering if people are going to come, and you're wondering if people are going to like the book. And I just was just so unfamiliar with the territory. So I think there was more nervousness. I think with the second book, we had timed the launch in Oakland to be at the end of my book tour. So I had already done a book tour, and this was the last event. And that was another thing. Like, I had spoken about the revisioners, hundreds of times. Well, I mean, I didn't do hundreds of stops, but I talked about it so much. And so, and so it was just comfortable. And so many of my family and friends were there. My kids were there. My husband was there. It was the first time my husband could come to an event because he had been watching the kids the whole tour. So he could actually come and bring them. We had,
and they were very well behaved.
Oh, well, thank you. We had people from my kids' school there. I mean, it was just so nice to see so many members of my community who don't really necessarily even know each other, just in one place, almost like a wedding or something. And we had Aro Kwan there. We were in conversation, and that, I love her, and she asked amazing questions. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful place to have it, because the store is so familial and comfortable and warm. So I think it just enhanced a feeling of my own community that was there already, but it just made it even stronger.
So you've mentioned that you have small children. And so during this pandemic, it's, for all of us with children, it has been a challenging time. And on top of that, you're a writer. Have you been able to find time during the past couple of months to work on something new? We have a lot of writers who watch A Mighty Blaze, and they're always trying to understand how people can be creative during this time. Have you been able to do that?
Yeah, I have, because, well, I'm lucky in that I always had, because my baby was younger, he hadn't gone to school yet.
Okay.
So I always had part-time care for him. And so that has continued. And so I have hours where that's, where I have to work. And I just think of it, I always have thought of it as a job. I don't think of it, and it is a job. And that's the way I think about it. Like, I remember when I left, I used to work at a law firm. I remember when I left to start working as a writer, I just didn't think of it like a situation where, sometimes I'll do it if I feel like it, or sometimes I won't do it if I feel like it. I just always did it every day. And it didn't mean that everything I did was necessarily productive or fruitful, because I wrote a book that was never published. For the first 4 years I was writing, I was working on a book that truly has never been published. So yeah, so it doesn't mean that every day that you do it, you're going to be directly progressing toward the goal. But I think it's always cumulative, and it can also be indirect. So everything I was doing was laying the groundwork for what was to come, even if it didn't feel that way, and even if it didn't directly look that way. Yeah. So
keep going.
I think it's just good to have a routine.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have a routine. I think for me, it's a routine. I don't feel comfortable if I don't do it. However, I will say there are days where I don't do it. There are a lot of days that I don't do it, but because it's been such a routine over so many years, it doesn't matter as much. Like when people say, writers have to write every day. Well, no, that's not true. I don't believe that. But I do think with any kind of habit, in the beginning, it's nice to do it every day because that builds the routine. But I think once the habit is built, then it's just a habit. It's just, it would be like brushing your teeth, or it's something that I just do,
But a habit that produces some things that are quite extraordinary. So Kathleen, you were mentioning to us that the store has done a number of online events, and you have a YouTube channel. So people who may have missed an event can go onto your website and they can click over and watch them.
Right.
And then do you have any events that are coming up that you want our viewers to watch? Because one of the beauties of online events is that you don't have to be in Oakland to see them, right? So anyone around the world can log into an event that you're doing. Anything that's coming up that you want to draw our viewers' attention to?
Well, we have a fundraiser with Stephen Rowley, the author of The Editor, and Byron Lane, the author of A Star is Born, in conversation with our good friend Bianca Murray, who's also a writer and wrote Hum If You Don't Know I'm forgetting the whole title, but she's an amazing writer. And we were lucky enough to host Bianca a couple times in the store. She lives in Canada, and she contacted me in the very beginning to do, and it's a $10 charge to get the link. And it's going to be so much fun, because if you don't know Stephen and Byron, they are the world's goofiest boys. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and they're amazing writers, and they've been so supportive. They've actually become really good friends of mine over the last couple of years. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And then we, later this month, the beginning of September, we have Francesca Seratola, the author of The Ghosts of Harvard. And it's going to be the first Thursday in September, so I'm forgetting the date right now. That will be a live Facebook event, which we will have a link up. I believe we have a link right now on both our website and Facebook with the Zoom ID number.
Okay, great. And people should feel excited to go to your website and see more about upcoming events that are happening.
Yeah, and we also have all of our events that we've done archived on the website.
Okay. And for those of you who are questioning, the website is ggpbooks.com. Just to make sure we get that out there. Margaret, anything that you want to ask Kathleen about the bookstore? Anything that's special that you want people to know about a great, good place for books?
Well, I wonder, because so many of my writer friends and my reader friends too, but I think it's more interesting that my writer friends have said this. So many of them have said that they can't read right now. And I was like that for the first 3 months. I couldn't read. And I'm wondering what you would recommend, Kathleen, to jumpstart that, because it's such a solace in this time. Once I was able to jump back into it, I was like, oh my God, thank God, because it's just such a way to journey out of the situation we're in and to gain a little bit more perspective. So how would you recommend? And I don't remember, I think for me, it was just reading. I think I just, I'd heard so much about The Vanishing Half, and I'm so interested in passing, the idea of passing. So I think that was the book for me that just kind of jump-started it. And once I got through that, I was like, okay, I can do this. But Kathleen, how would you recommend that people find that joy in reading?
Well, like I said, I had a hard time in the beginning too. And what I did was I read a bunch of trashy novels. And much to, I got made fun of. My staff totally made fun of me that I was reading the things I was reading. I read a lot of things that took me to other places.
Holidays too. Remember we were saying we do that over the holidays?
Oh, yeah, I totally read trash during the holidays.
What defines a trashy novel? Like, what is a what do you mean, like a romance novel?
No,
like
I can't do bodice rippers.
So what's a trashy novel?
I would say what's quoted as women's fiction, kind of one step up,
Okay.
like I read all of Christina Lauren's books it's a writing team. I read everything that they wrote. And then I started segueing back into the books that really mattered to me. I started, like Taylor Jenkins Reid. I read all of her. I actually reread Daisy Jones and the Six, and that really got me going. And then I picked up Anne Patchett. The Dutch House that was probably that got me over the edge. The Dutch House brought me back to I mean, I'm still reading trash, on the side, but I'm also back to reading like I was lucky enough that a couple editors sent me early manuscripts of books. So I've read a couple books that I'm dying to talk about, but I can't because I've been sworn to secrecy.
Ooh.
I know, it's like but I can tell you that one of them I have read is I've read Stephen Rowley's new book, The Guncle, which comes out next summer, and I cried. The book made me cry, and I love a book that pushes me to that edge, and I'm a blithering idiot in my bed crying because it touched me so much. But I like a book that moves me. And that's why I like Margaret's books, is they take me to a place that I'm not totally familiar with. And then my staff makes fun of me that anything that's semi-literary with a dysfunctional Irish background, I'm all over. Like I would say I reread Mary Beth Keane's Ask Again Yes, which is about a New York Irish Catholic cop family, which my grandfather was a New York Irish Catholic cop. So I mean, I've gone back and I've read things that were familial to me and familiar. And then I've been lucky enough to, now I'm kind of back in my mojo when I'm reading the things that I'm kind of super excited about. Like I read The Ghosts of Harvard, which I ended up, poor Francesca, ended up kind of stalking her on Instagram until she agreed to do an event with me. But I love that book so much because it's got like a little bit of a thriller. It's got the literary edge. It's got a little bit of magical, and it was a book that I sold it to one of my favorite customers, and I came home one day and there was a message on my my voicemail saying that I was a horrible person and her family thought so too, because I sold her this book and she hasn't been able to do anything else but read, but she still loved me.
But that's the best book, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
That you can't put down and that you sort of ignore your family because the book is so good and you kind of walk around your house like this, bumping into walls because you're reading.
Yeah, and the funny thing is I never ever would have picked up this book unless one of my staff said, "Oh, look at this cover, it's really cool." And I said, "Oh, I'll just take it home and take a peek at it." And the next thing I knew, it was 4 a.m. and I was still reading.
And did that happen immediately, or did it take a while?
I have to say this happened really recently. This happened in July. It took me a while to be able to read anything other than things that made me feel happy.
And did you get sucked into The Ghost of Harvard very quickly, or did it happen?
I was sucked in within 2 chapters. Completely sucked in, and beyond sucked in, like going, "Oh my God, what's going to happen next?"
Okay, I have to read this.
Yeah, you would love it. It's such a good book.
Okay,
if you haven't read it too, Kimberly, I totally think that you would love this book.
I haven't, but we did have the author on A Mighty Blaze a couple weeks ago, so I've heard about it. So I will, not on our program, but another one. But I will have to check it out.
Oh, you've got to read it. It's just it was kind of that. I wasn't sure. I felt like I wasn't sure I was ever going to be in that totally blissed out place again, and it took me there.
Oh wow. Okay, well that's a big recommendation.
Yes.
You know that one where you don't want to talk to anybody, you just want to read?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I felt when I read these books.
Yeah, I felt when I read that one, when I read them in the beginning. But I read, as Margaret knows, I read them a long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing that's amazing that you don't know is Margaret has the world's best editor. And that whole team over at Counterpoint makes sure that if they know a book is going to be the perfect match for a bookseller, they make, darn sure that it gets in your hands ASAP. And I can tell you that I got this in my hands way before pub date.
So that's a really interesting point that maybe or I'm not sure how many of our viewers know that, is that often booksellers get advance copies from publishers. And the idea behind that is for you to decide whether or not to buy it for your store, right? And
Yeah.
also to help spread the word. And how many advance copies of books do you get in a year, do you think?
Margaret's been in my office. All I need to say is it gets quite scary. I think that I've been doing this for so long that I don't know, but in the early 90s, we used to fly to New York to schedule events in the, before Edelweiss and all that. We would fly to New York 2 to 3 times a year and meet with editors and publicists. So I got to know a lot of the editorial people. And so I'm really lucky that sometimes if an editor thinks that they have a book that I'll really like, they send me the manuscript. Like with Stephen's book, I read it over a year before it's scheduled to be published. And, I get that. I get manuscripts periodically, which is really awesome. And I feel that it's such a compliment that an editor would want me to read their manuscript before anybody else puts their, and then, the bookseller blurbs that come out on galleys.
Yeah.
I've done quite a few of those. So,
well, you're explaining why indie bookstores are so crucial, right? Because booksellers are so aware of books that are coming down the pike. You really can play this role of matchmaker between the reader and the author and the book in a way that really no one else can. Maybe a librarian, right? But like really a unique position that you have in the whole publishing ecosystem.
Or pendulum.
We're coming to the end of our time, which I am very sad to say. Any last things about the bookstore, Kathleen, that you wanted people to know about, or Margaret, about your books or your upcoming work that you want to make sure our viewers check out?
Well, we're open all the time at ggpbooks.com, and you can send us a message, and we always respond. Okay. And we love you guys. You make us who we are.
Wonderful. Margaret, any last?
It's so nice to know that Kathleen is back again and the store is open, albeit limited. And I just echo what the entire community has been saying to her in their attempts to uplift her and sustain her there. I just feel like without Kathleen's store in Montclair, it would not be the same place.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much to both of you for spending some time with us today and explaining your special store to the Authors Love Bookstore audience, and also the chance to talk with Margaret about her wonderful books, A Kind of Freedom and The Revisioners. You can find out more about Margaret's work on her website, margaretwilkersonsexton.com. She's also on social media. You can follow her on Twitter. The bookstore also, as we said, is ggpbooks.com. Also very active on Instagram and on Twitter, so you can follow them and find out about openings, author events, store hours, how to order, etc., etc. Definitely check out Margaret's books if you haven't read them already. Again, they're fantastic. And join us back here next time for another edition of Authors Love Bookstores, presented by A Mighty Blaze. Until then, be well and keep reading. Thank you.